Hi, welcome back. This is my video series on Armitage Tasks. And in this video, I'm starting to kind of put some of the pieces together. I've explored different React stacks, I guess would be the term. I've explored ShadCN and the forms portion of that. And now I'm trying to pull all the pieces together to try and get the project started. So let's dive in. So to start off here, I basically am starting with ShadCN and trying to formulate some of the components that I'd like to use. In the previous video, I talked about how I had problems submitting forms that were in modals. This is the video of that kind of exploration. So I had in a dialog window that I wanted, so the user would be able to click a button, create task, and then a dialog window would open, and then they would enter all their information for the task they want to create, submit that, make the dialog box disappear, and then it would be added to the components on screen. So I then also took the form information and entered the kind of the structure for the object to do the verification for it. And now we're running through kind of the form schema and trying to then build out the form to collect all of those points of data that I wanted to collect. So it's a little cumbersome and it's a very kind of, I don't know, maybe it's big or maybe not. It's bigger than most kind of data objects that I've dealt with on some of my miscellaneous projects. I guess it's not true. Some of them have been bigger, but I've never designed them. Or I've only kind of like used them and operated with them. So basically just trying to get the basic structure down and the kind of infrastructure around the forms. This is when I started to realize that I was trying to just get it to console log the values and just was not getting the console log values that I was hoping for out of the form. So this is my kind of exploration, jumping around, trying to see if is this a React hooks problem? Is this where's the problem coming from? Basically, is what I'm trying to figure out here. So after not really being able to get to that to work, realizing like, okay, let me go back to the designs and figure out exactly what I'm trying to build. Maybe instead of having a pop-up dialog box, I'll have it slide in from the side with what this arrow is. Have a slider off to the side of the screen and have it kind of come back this way. Just, I basically hit a roadblock with the dialog box. It wasn't working as easily as I wanted, but it was my first thought, first design. So maybe this is an opportunity to explore an alternative, maybe an alternative that's better. So that's kind of what I get to explore and go back into the design phase and kind of think. Initially, when I designed, I can probably just keep this running. Or let me wait in that. Initially, when I did my brain dump, I was not familiar with ShadCN yet, so I was just kind of like just going with whatever came to mind. So now that I'm using ShadCN as the UI library, that kind of changes what my options are for what I want to for the UI to look like. And now also that I've like thought about more of the app, I've done more thinking about the structure and the input, trying to understand and just kind of ruminate and what is the incubate is the term we talked about in college. So this was some other views that I was thinking about, adding in a sort of like agenda scheduling, planning portion of it. So you generate your all of your tasks and projects and everything, and then you'd be able to kind of drag and drop them into your calendar, and they would be you'd be able to time block yourself. Um, So then now that I've kind of refined my design a little bit more, going back into the code and with ShadCN and trying to build what I had kind of wireframed out. So again, this is all still on the looser side. Like I may end up scrapping all of this, but this is still in my kind of exploratory method of just poking around at everything, figuring out what fits together, what doesn't fit together, what my options are. Um, so yeah, figuring out like, okay, if my first plan wasn't going to work, maybe okay, we'll just do it as a card. And at this point, my thinking is even if the UI isn't exactly what I'm looking for, I need to just get the app up and running so that I can start using it and start to figure out what works, what doesn't work. How am I using it? Am I using it how I'm expecting or not? Um, so that's the thinking behind it. And then as I'm building it, realizing like, okay, maybe I didn't flesh out certain ideas as much as I wanted to. So I'm exploring different ideas for this sort of like task list view that would have your what to do on each section and what kind of interfaces would I want for each of these things. What kind of buttons, what kind of how would I want to interact with them as I'm working. So so yeah, again, just building out what I kind of laid out in the wireframe, and then and just trying to make it real. Um, the code I'm referencing here is a web dev simplified video on creating a YouTube clone, a YouTube homepage clone using React and TypeScript. Um, so I really enjoyed his video. It was very informative, and I was using that as a kind of template for kind of how to structure React components, how to set up types properly, when to set up types, and just doing a deeper dive into the patterns that always emerge as you're building these projects. Um, so again, going back to these old tutorials, projects that I had built, and kind of looking at how were things done, what was like the best practices that they were used, where are they putting information, how is it related. It's always different once you start trying to build your own thing. It's very different than trying to follow a tutorial. Things that seem so easy and straightforward during the tutorial when someone says it, not so much when you're looking at a blank page and trying to work it out. So yeah, this is where I'm starting to get into TypeScript, and I'm doing some more custom stuff that isn't part of ShadCN, and I'm starting to realize like, oh wait, I don't quite know where to put them, where to like define the types and make sure that I'm like pulling them through properly, and if I still get errors, like where are those errors coming from. Um, so it's just a constant trying to build something, hit a roadblock, figure out how to move through it or go around it. So it's yeah, just that constant learning and playing of building something myself. So this is the other view that I was working on. So before this this is that to-do list view that I've been envisioning. And then before I had the card to create the new task. Instead, this component here on this side is the task view. So you've got your goals and then the projects nested inside of that. And then you'd have your to-dos nested inside of those projects. So just figuring out like how many ShadCN components can I nest inside of each other? Like, is there a point in which it will break? Is there a point that it won't, um, information won't bubble through, or is it gonna yeah, just pushing the limits, trying to understand the tool a little bit more. I thought there was a window where there was a limit where you couldn't list them, but I realized that just my references were, I think I misspelled something as a typo. So I haven't hit a limit yet. It seems like you can just keep on going indefinitely. I mean, I don't know. That's another thing with my inexperience. I don't know if that's going to be a problem for. Um is that going to slow the app down a lot? Should I make them? Should I not be nesting them? Should they not be the same component nested inside of itself? Um, it's yeah, stuff like that where I feel like the only way I'm really going to learn is by building this out, or someone watches this video and tells me that I'm doing it wrong and that there's a better way. Um, I mean, another way I could probably learn is take a React course, but I don't want to do that because I want to teach myself, and that costs a lot of money. And I feel like I can kind of figure it out as I go, which is kind of what this whole project is all about. Um, the real project that I want to build is like a D&D group finding social media app. But I figured that this a more complicated to do app would be a good stepping stone before trying to get into something as big as what I'm envisioning for that. I already have a bunch of designs down and everything for that, and I'm very excited for it. So now getting into the authentication portion of it again. Now that I kind of like have the design a little bit more worked out, I have some components at least generally set up. So I'm kind of building the skeleton, and now going back to kind of where I started with the authentication portion. So getting a sign in, sign out button, and kind of merging a bunch of the different tutorials that I've done. So trying to understand the Firebase a little bit better. This I hit a bit of a roadblock, because again, this is kind of where it started to feel more complicated than it needed to be. The videos seemed a little bit convoluted and wasn't exactly how I was structuring things. And I'm not familiar enough with React yet to really like customize it and make it work on my own. I'm at the tweaking phase. I'm not at the yeah, getting into the mechanics of it and tweaking stuff at that point. So I kind of pop around with this a little bit, and nothing really clicks, nothing really feels right. I try to follow the documentation, I look at some different tutorials. This I think is again another place where my inexperience kind of steps in, where even reading the documentation I don't quite understand. Um, where certain things are implied in the documentation, I found I don't quite understand the context, for what's written there. I usually want a little bit more, which is why I like the ShadCN stuff. It seems kind of it's all there. At least that's what I've found. But for Firebase, there's definitely certain things where they expect a baseline knowledge about Firebase or about the different services that they're providing that I still lack. So that's why I tend to come back to the tutorials a lot more, for getting up and getting started and getting things working, because they get it working. They talk about the things to be aware of. So that context is all there. Where with just reading documentation, I've found I'm either missing context or misunderstanding something. So reading documentation is definitely a skill that I want to work on more. I just haven't really gotten there yet. So still, yeah, lots of reading articles and comparing notes and trying to kind of understand how things fit together and where the circuitry is that I can short wire or short circuit and reattach things, and a lot of noodling around. But as I work through this like exploratory phase, this starts to get it eventually gets old, I guess. Once with enough exploring and trying to get working, and it's all part of the learning process for sure. But I believe after this point, I reference a different tutorial that kind of is modern, and I trust it, and it's building something that's similar to what I'm trying to do. And oh, so this I actually, that's right. Now that I'm watching this, I do realize I did get it to work properly. I got some weird error messages, but mainly because I was already signed into Google. If I opened it in a incognito window, I was able to get it to work properly, to get the sign in to work. It's just all part of my process. This is how I'm learning and how I'm building and exploring, playing with things, breaking them, trying to get them to work again, understanding where the connections are. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.